Hey, hey!
Hi, Ryan. How are
What's
you?
happening,
Good
Tanya?
to
How are
see
you
you.
doing?
Good, good. Hanging in there.
Nice to see you.
I know, my ear's hurting a little bit, so everybody bear with me.
Yeah, so let's talk about it a little bit. You're not to get in, not to make this a medical show, but you've had this terrible, like, is it an ear infection or?
It's not. It's just an earache, just pressure. Just I do have allergies, so it's just I haven't been doing certain things, and it's been stressful. I think it's just all adding up, and it just kind of
I'm sorry
it's
to hear
hit me
that.
like 3 days, and it's been a
But
little
it's
rough.
not. But it's not just an earache, right? I mean, it's crippling. It just comes on quickly, and
Yes, it's like all of a sudden I'll be sitting here just like this, and all of a sudden then I'll have like a branding iron stabbing my eardrum or something. So it's painful, and it's
it
hard because
sounds
it comes.
terrible.
There's no like pre-warning. It just like like sometimes if you feel it coming on, you can kind of
Right,
take it, but no, not this. It's just like just attacks me. So
right,
I
right.
did
I
take
know.
some good Tylenol, so hopefully I'll be fine.
Good. I'm
Thanks for
glad to hear that. So we've got a lot to cover today. We've got a special guest we're going to bring in here in a moment. I did want to talk briefly just about a couple quick things. As folks know that we are in the middle of this, the first phase of our level 6 beta. And it's going well. We've got about somewhere between 12 and 15 people who are actually doing the beta. And we're seeing some good results. We're, of course, squashing bugs and dealing with issues and things. But one feature that I did want to show is sort of an unexpected thing that I was actually working on. And I'm going to show it now. So I'm going to show a short
I'm
demonstration
really
of
excited about
satellite
this.
tracking
Hmm.
using the Losmandy Gemini 2, the level 6 firmware, and the latest version of the Gemini Telescope.net, which is the ASCOM driver. So what you're going to see here, this is SkyTrack, which is a satellite tracking program. It's great, and it's either free or very, very inexpensive. I think they ask for donations. Brent
Okay.
is a guy. So what you're going to see is this is the sort of the control panel here for SkyTrack, and to the right here, this is SharpCap that's actually doing a live update. It's doing a live video feed from the camera in the telescope. So I'm
Okay.
just going to play this real quick. This is a short 16-second clip, but you can see
It's
here,
amazing.
right here, that's the satellite, and it's tracking as it's going. It's obviously going at a different rate than sidereal time, but
Right, right.
what a fantastic update and addition that was kind of unexpected that we put in here.
Yes. Yes, it is.
So,
Now, is this something that I know that you've sent me some links. Do you want me to put that link to the GIT hub in the
oh no, no,
comments?
so we can put the link into this video. It's hidden
Got
right
it.
now because I mean, it's not really that interesting or long. It's only
Okay.
16
Okay.
seconds, but there's a satellite tracking video link that we can put into the description, and then there are some other links that I wanted to share around that. One thing that happens, and this is not going to be a satellite tracking discussion, an in-depth one, but one of the things that you need to do this is extremely accurate time on your computer clock because
Okay.
it's watching the software and seeing what's going on.
Right.
So Paul Konevsky, the guy who writes the Gemini Telescope.net ASCOM driver and does a
Hmm.
phenomenal job, and he's done the Gemini firmware update utility and a
Yes.
number of other things, has also kind of dug out of his bag of tricks something that he did before, which is called NIST Sync. And we
Okay.
do have a link for that we can put in there. And this is, and I think he wrote it almost 12 years ago, but it's freeware to synchronize your PC clock. And again, this is all Windows-based stuff, but it also tells you like what the offset of the synchronization is and, the charts and
Right.
things like that. But the goal here for him was to keep it within a couple of microseconds of correct time. And that's, again, really important
Hmm.
for the for satellite tracking and keeping such a small thing that's going very, very fast in the middle of your field of view.
Right. Yeah. I think this is okay. So I'm gonna show a question right now because it's directly to this. But I also want to say that we do have some watchers on. Hi, Jamie. High Flow 1, I think that is, and Mr. Hammer. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming in. And Carl already has some fans. He's already a gentleman by the name of Adrian's already saying, "Go, Carl, go!" So, I love it. But here's a question. It's pertaining to the Gemini update. It says, are there any changes in controlling the mount via Wi-Fi with level 6? Still needs Sky-Fi or similar device.
Oh yeah. So controlling it via Wi-Fi. So the Gemini 2 as a piece of hardware has a obviously has an Ethernet port, and in that regard, you can use that to make it Wi-Fi enabled or something else. I mean, there will be a Wi-Fi adapter that's needed. I don't think there's any change in terms of the hardware itself.
Right. It's
trying to think if there's anything.
That, right?
So one thing that has changed, and it's not actually unique to level 6, but with Sky Safari in particular, they've now updated, I think with version 7, you can use the Ascom Alpaca software to actually remotely access Sky Safari, like on an iPad or something like that, to the computer that's actually running the Gemini Telescope.net. So
right.
if folks are interested, we can do that in a subsequent podcast. They want to know more about it, but basically that gives you kind of a wireless access, in the sense that you would have, if you have wireless access to your computer that's running the software, you would also have wireless access via Sky Safari as a client.
Okay, like those imaging appliances that we talked about in our live
podcast. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
So I want to ask you, and so Rod's asking us, Rod Westwood. Hi, Rod. Thanks for joining. Is level 6 for Gemini 2 only?
Do I need to update? So yes, Gemini 1, which is still in wide use, and very, we get a lot of images from people. They're very, very happy, but it was discontinued almost about 10 years ago. And the part of the thing when we moved to the Gemini 2, the Gemini 1 had just firmware that was done by EEPROM chips. And of course, Tanya, you remember that. And
right,
so
yes.
people have to call, we'd send them the chip, they'd plug it into the board. So with Gemini 2, we have field updatable firmware. So
right.
you can update it just with a file, or we have the Gemini firmware updater utility. So level 6 is something that is specific to the Gemini 2, and it's either the tall or the mini. So yeah, for Gemini 1 folks, you're not going to take advantage of this, but we do have a retrofit.
I want to make a little bit of a correction, because I don't think the EEPROM was. I thought that was in the Digital Drive 492 system.
Nope, it's also in the. So when we talk about Gemini 1, level 3, level 4.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, those are
I
chips.
didn't realize that.
Yeah. I mean, it actually predates me, right? I mean, this is what I hear.
Yeah.
Okay, so we did want to show that. Let me also mention, and this is not specific to level 6, but Jamie, who I think is on the live stream here, was been doing work on the Indy the Indy driver for the Gemini, and Indy, of course, is the sort of the well, I mean, it is open source, but it's kind of specific about Linux and Mac, things like that. So he, let me put this over here.
Okay.
He is, and we can put this link into the description as well, but he's saying, hey, everybody, that anyone out there is using the Indy driver and is comfortable compiling it, please give the latest version in the repo a try. And this is the what is this, GitHub? So this is the GitHub repository.
Okay.
And he's saying that I've added quite a bit of level 5 and level 6 features along with some bug fixes.
Nice.
So he's just looking for people who are running Indy to give it a try. And the driver exposes more commands at the Gemini software level. And it is, I think it's version aware, right, Jamie? It's it knows whether you're running level 5 or level 6, and then doesn't show you the commands that would only work for level 6, things like in doing the 4x resolution mode, things like that.
He hasn't responded yet, but I'm sure he will in a minute. Yeah, Jamie's been very, very active with beta level 6, and all the everybody has been so committed. It's great. It's been so nice. It's such a great group to work with.
Yeah, it is nice. And, Jamie, I just want a special shout out to him. I mean, he took on sort of the indie updates before we even talked about it or did anything. It wasn't really something that's been in our beta, but he kind of jumped in. I had mentioned a couple of things that were missing from the indie. I think like was it side of Pier that wasn't reporting correctly, or it was the telescope pointing position, but it was something that was missing. So he's tracked all this stuff down and he's done a great job, and thank you again so much for that. But like I said, he's looking for people to test out the new indie, so check out that link. Hopefully it's in the
okay,
the
wait,
comments
you
there.
want me to put a link in?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll just drop it. I'll drop it right in here.
Okay.
Right there.
Download. Okay.
And that's the indie link.
Okay, thank you.
Or sorry, the link to the GitHub
Yes,
repository for indie that you would need to compile. But yes, that'll all work.
Okay, perfect.
So I think that's everything that we wanted to talk about before we bring on our special guest, right?
Yes, here is what JB did. I knew he would reply. Yep, I just finished fixing the last UI issues with the updated Gemini driver.
Nice.
Thanks Jamie. You're awesome.
So with that, Carl.
Hi.
Bjork. The man.
Oh, yay. Hi, all the way from
all
Switzerland.
Yep. Night here. I brought my fans with me.
What time is it over there?
It is 22. It's 10 p.m.
Okay.
10 p.m. So thank you
Yep.
for taking a late night out. You could be imaging out there and having fun. Instead, you're stuck here with us.
Yeah.
Or you could be at the pub drinking a couple beers. It is
I'd
fun.
rather image.
I love it.
So, Carl, it's good. We've chatted a bit. We've known, well, you and I have kind of known each other for a while now, for over a year and a half, kind of chatting more directly. And I know you've been involved with Losmandy for a while. Rather than kibitzing about things, can we just sort of jump in, because I know that you have prepared some commentary and you have such a huge amount of great content that we want to make sure people see. I would love it if it's okay if you just kind of jump in and just kind of get started with your introduction, who you are.
Sure.
That'd be
And
great.
let's just kind of get rolling with that.
All right.
Yep. So let me share my screen.
Okay, and I think I need to add this, right, Carl? So
Yes.
Here we go.
All right.
All right, my friend, the floor is yours.
Yes.
Great. Thanks. So a quick thanks to Adrien that was supporting me earlier in the chat. And thanks to you, Tanya, to report it, because I obviously cannot see YouTube while I'm presenting.
Right.
So I'm a Swiss citizen. I was born in Switzerland. I was born Swedish and Portuguese, and I studied high school in France. I came back to Switzerland for an engineering degree in Swiss Federal Institute of Technology. So let's say I'm kind of an international person. I'm very passionate. I like to go deeply into things. I love cooking. I don't like to take myself seriously. And the legend says that once I had hairs. So just for the story, this picture is from our small Astro group. We're a small group of friends, and Adrien is part of them. So I'm not sure if he updated his, I hope he updated his YouTube picture for an alpaca picture.
I love it.
So my backyard, I live in a city, unfortunately. It's about Portal 6.
Okay.
And to add pain to injury, I live on the top roof. So that brings in loads of issues.
Right, the top floor, right?
Top floor.
Right.
So I'm very prone to wind. And, you know, if the neighbors are on the balcony just underneath, there will be issues. We announced in Lausanne 200 days of sun per year.
Okay.
But I do suspect they only count daylight, you know, because during the night, it's always covered. Part of it might be that I live about 800 meters from the biggest subalpine lake of Europe, and it's called Geneva Lake, or in French, Lac Léman. So that's here, and fun story, this lake is shared between Swiss and France. So half of it, the bottom half is French and the top half is Swiss.
Do you
And didn't I hear
do
also
you have
what
to show your
is the
passport if you're going on the lake? Go to country.
Sorry, I didn't get it.
Do you have to show your passport if you?
Oh yeah.
What?
It depends where you go, but if you go from Evian, which is here, to Lausanne, let me display Lausanne.
Okay.
So there you're crossing a border, and colleagues of mine were living in Evian and they were working in Lausanne, so they would commute every day by boat.
Oh my God.
That is so. Now, when you say, is that Evian? You said Evian?
Yes,
Okay,
exactly.
I've been there before, and it's absolutely beautiful.
It's a very nice place and very.
Is this like Evian on the water?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the bottling water. I think the water is falling somewhere here, and they bottle it somewhere here. It takes 15 years from here to there to get it into bottles.
Oh, 15 years.
Yeah, I actually went to visit the factory when I was a teenager. So they bottled 6 million, or at the time at least, they bottled 6 million liters per day.
That's crazy.
They have their own train station, and trains are living from there going up to Japan. I mean, it's madness.
Wow.
So yeah, you have to show your passport, and some people are actually commuting every day.
Wow. I was just kind of joking, but that's.
But yeah, well, Switzerland is not so big, I think.
Right.
Well, we're 8 million. If you look New York, it's like 15 million people.
Right.
Yeah.
Not the same size. So I'm from here in Lausanne, right next to this big mass of water. So I still get a good view. The three pictures here are my south view from east to west, more or less. But I do tend to shoot as high as I can to avoid turbulence. So how did I get into astrophotography? It was 2016, 2017. I saw this video from a guy called Forrest Tanaka. And it was about shooting Andromeda only with a tripod. And I was like, we can do that? So I spent a few months trying, I was already stubborn at the time, so I just kept trying. I would recenter my target every 5 minutes. As I'm on a tripod, Andromeda would just move away. I shot it at 400 millimeters. That was probably not the smartest focal length to use. And I got this. It is not a very nice pictures in terms of quality, but that got me caught. That got my attention, and I wanted to do better.
Right, you got to start somewhere.
And that's pretty typical, right? It's usually Orion or
Andromeda,
possibly Pleiades, but those are usually the ones that just knock people's socks off, even if it's sort of a simple rendition like this, and just go, wow, this is incredible.
Well, you get the feeling you just caught a galaxy, and you're like,
right,
dude, that's 2.5 million light years away.
It's amazing.
It's astonishing, for sure.
So as I was lazy, I thought I cannot recenter my gear every 3 minutes. So I bought a small Skywatcher Star Adventurer. Mm-hmm. And indeed, I got much better results. At the same time, I also increased my processing skills. I didn't know how I would really get stubborn about this target and how I would pursue it. So this is my latest one, but we will come back to it a bit later. So the Losmandy mounts. In 2018, so maybe 1 year after I started astrophotography, my mom got sick. And I was looking for a Christmas gift. And, it's really difficult to find a Christmas gift for someone that is terminally ill. What can you offer?
Right.
And she loved the pink color, and she really loved hearts. So IC1805 was like the perfect target. And I bought a printer also, the Heart Nebula.
Yeah. So
I got myself a G11 mount. I went for shooting. That was crazy. I was in October. I was able to go 1,700 meters high in winter. That's about, what is it? 5,000 feet, I guess, something like this. Not sure. I'm not very good in conversions, but it's supposed to be snow. And I was very lucky to be able to spend nights there and add images. So I printed it, and she really loved it, and that got me even further caught. I wanted to make even better.
Right.
So that's how I met my Losmandy mount. In 2019, I've started professional activities in astronomy. So namely, I've been doing software development, I've been developing a device, I've been doing R&D and many things with my company that is called LIVESTREAM.
And I know we talked about this briefly, but can you just briefly tell us how you came to be that name?
Yeah, so the laws in Switzerland for choosing a company name are very, very restrictive. For example, you cannot use what they call a generic name. You would be an ambulance driver. You would like to call your company ambulance service. This is forbidden because this is what we call the generic name. That means that it would apply, you know.
So you're saying generic, right?
Exactly.
I thought you said like degenerate, and I was like,
no.
That's
Generic.
Not what I was thinking.
Sorry, my pronunciation is not always the best. Anyways,
generic.
This
got it.
I got it right away.
Okay. I mean, granted,
so in French, Helvétique would mean Swiss, but it's not spelled like this. It's spelled differently, but you can pronounce it like this. And in those rules, there is one that is called fantasy name. And if you have a strange pronunciation with a strange spelling, well, it is accepted. So that's how I was able to pull this one out. And then we had the logo designed with the Swiss cross and the connecting the dots.
Mm-hmm.
And we will see this logo later, I know.
I hope.
I should have worn my Swiss shirt. I got a Swiss shirt with that cross on it. I should have worn it today.
I should print Helvétique t-shirts and send them out.
I would love
that. So I've now, or Helvétique, should I say, has a semi-wide frame setup, high resolution. So I'm in the field of view is about 2.3 degrees. And I have 0.74 arc seconds per pixel, so it's quite detailed. Mm-hmm. I achieved this with the Losmandy G11, Skywatcher Esprit 150.
Beautiful scope.
I'm very, very happy with that scope. It's brilliant. Mm-hmm. I'm very happy with my filters, my chroma filters. I was very, very lucky to buy them just at the beginning of the COVID crisis. So that was just before they updated the prices. They almost doubled in price since.
Wow.
So that was a very good deal for me.
Yes.
And I got ASI 6200, which I'm very happy with too. I mean,
and that's
I'm
impressive. I mean, that's a full frame, not APS-C, but a full frame camera. That's impressive that the Skywatcher 150 is able to handle a sensor like that, and you're finding it's good all the way to the edges.
Oh yeah, perfect.
Wow.
I spent some time adjusting back focus and tilt, but it is perfect. So then, when you have all this gear, well, you need to do all the processing. So in terms of computer and computer power and storage, I would summarize it as a lot. I have a 32 cores CPU. I have 256 gigabytes of RAM, and I have 42 terabytes on my local computer. Then I have a NAS with network storage.
Right.
I think I have only 1 or 2 terabytes available currently.
One or two terabytes of disk space?
Yeah, available.
Yeah,
I'm consuming everything.
We just had a big conversation on the user forums about disk space and NAS and things like that. And it just seems sort of universally, I'm surprised at how much disk space people are acquiring. Not that it's unusual, but just like everyone's got these dozens of terabyte types of setups and or are looking to add them.
Well, then there's a question of how many files do you keep? Like, if you only keep your raw files, you're not going to consume too much space.
Right.
But if you do big projects and you start keeping calibrated frames, cosmetic corrected frames, aligned frames, local normalization, etc., those will add up. And like from the row, they will double, and then you're just expanding each process. You just add more.
Right.
So it's also a matter of discipline and how much files you keep. So that is also part of my current setup. That's the calibration scripts that are fully automated at this point. And Adrien is one of the persons I've been working closely with.
Right.
We have been testing a prototype of automated calibration script for maybe 1.5 years. And at our observatories in the morning, the files are copied over the network automatically. And when we wake up, our files are, the flats are stacked and the lights are calibrated. So that was a very important part of the setup.
Okay, I have a couple people like chiming in, and I think it pertains to me. I don't do astrophotography. I kind of just know what I'm talking about. I kind of know a little bit of enough. But this, I don't know if this is a question or if this is kind of just saying a little bit of something. Yes, I use Synology NAS for pics. That's from Mr. Rat.
Yeah, Synology. So that's a network attached storage, and I use Synology. Carl, I don't know what you have.
I have both, but I mainly use QNAP. But I've been playing a bit with the Synology also.
Oh, QNAP. So you use QNAP NAS and the Synology NAS. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have custom systems. I have a data center myself, so I'm building custom systems.
Got it. And we've got Toby over here. He's still using 5 1/4 floppies. All right, keeping it old school. I love it.
Yeah,
Toby.
not even the 3.5 floppies, the 5 1/4 ones, right?
I think there is a Sony DSLR that takes in 3.5 inches floppy disks.
I think I had that one.
It's probable. I think.
Oh my God.
I love it. Keeping it old school. Whatever works for each person, right?
Yep. All right, George. We'll get back to that there.
So I added a small picture of my setup, and I just take the occasion because it'll be easier for later. Just watch at my cables, like how they're arriving here, and like they're going in the north direction. Let's say they want to go in this direction. You will understand later. So about my setup, one thing is that as I'm on the rooftop, my ground is not good. All the tiles that we can see here are connected together. And as they are connected together, if you can see my mouse.
Yeah. This is the roof, right, Carl?
It is the roof. Yeah, it is the roof. So just a wind gust will make the entire thing vibrate. So I had to separate those 3 tiles, and they're not connected in any way to the ones next to them. That was a condition to isolate myself from as much vibration as I can. I'm still subject of the neighbors are having this huge fight on the balcony and are slamming doors. I will suffer from it.
Right.
So another thing about my setup is that I've made extensive use of 3D printing.
And these are so what we're about to see are things that you have not only printed, but you have designed yourself, right?
Correct.
Right. So I know we have Tanya, I know we have a link to some of these 3D printed designs.
Okay, yes, I do. Yes,
Carl,
thanks for letting me know when to
provided
print
to us.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll put that in the chat here. But go ahead, Carl, because these are to me are fascinating.
Thanks. And let me add this: if people are interested, just hit the contact button, contact me, and depending on the part, what I want to do with it, I just might put it there for free.
Awesome. Well, I put the link in the chat so they can see it. The elvatique.ch downloads. Yeah. So okay.
Perfect.
There it is on the screen.
So here we can see a few table management. Sorry.
I kind of feel like the Brady Bunch with all this. I don't know if you got that show over in Switzerland or France, but Brady Bunch was a big show here in the, what was it, Brian, the 70s, 80s? Did you ever watch that?
Sadly, yes.
Okay, did you know the actual Brady Bunch house is 2 blocks from my house?
Wow.
I know, it's right around the corner from me. So, okay, sorry to interrupt. You're awesome. Thank you.
Thanks. So here was a few pictures of my cable management. We can see the cable attached together with those small brackets. Here is a
Nice.
bracket that is attached directly on the feeder touch focuser.
Okay.
Right, and we're going to see close-ups of these here in a second, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
I will emphasize the cable management thing. One
Sure.
in the back is this is my meteorological station, and I made this small thing so it stands up and it can catch the
Okay.
wind. You know.
Okay.
This is a bracket that goes on the EFW, the SVO 2-inch
Right.
7-position filter wheel, so I can attach and have my my cable going neatly to the power hub.
Right.
Nice.
It's very cool.
I will show you this later. The nuke lid. So this is a bearing cover, so it's between the focus motor and the bearings of the focuser. Is just to protect it and protect it in a nice way, I would say.
Right, and that's the. Can you just go back to that for a second? So that I think we talked about this. Is this a motor from Pegasus Astro?
No, that's a motor from Deep Sky Dead. That's the
Deep Sky
AF3.
Dad. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is so you just there were some things that were exposed on the motor, and you just wanted to kind of build something around that to.
So
kind of protect it.
here was the focus knob initially.
Okay.
So I removed the focus knob and I attached. I coupled both axes together.
Right.
But by doing so, I had those bearings from the feeder touch that were exposed.
Oh,
And
I gotcha. Okay.
you know, you don't want your feeder touch to get dust or things that, you know,
Sure,
I want to be nice with my feeder touch. And those models, by the way, on the side are allowing me to adjust the coupler if I ever
Right.
needed to.
Right.
That's the fun of 3D printing and design. Once you start, it is like a drug addict. You just keep designing and doing new parts and iterating over those and printing and
Yeah.
doing and printing. You
Yeah,
never
It sounds
stop.
like fun. Dread act.
It is.
Sounds like a lot of great pastime.
Yeah, 3D
Well,
printing almost is what?
There was one thing different. It costs nothing. Like this part costs maybe 10 cents to print.
That is
There's a big difference with
amazing.
drugs.
Yeah.
If you say so.
That was anti-light leak lip. So that's my OAG. And as I adjusted the tilt plate, well, there was a light leak. So I printed this one to mitigate it.
So this is a standard OAG tilt plate from ZWO. So when you buy the
Yes.
OAG, it comes with that tilt plate. And
Yes.
in your experience, that caused light leak. So it's still that product, right? You just built a kind of a
Yeah.
light around it.
Yes. The one exception is that when you buy it, you get the M48 tilt plate, which
Right.
has an internal baffle. So the M48 tilt plate doesn't suffer from this issue. It's only for the M68 one.
Oh, okay.
Basically, they didn't have the space to put an internal baffle, I suppose. So I built an external one.
Nice. Very nice.
It works fine, even in my light polluted area.
Yeah.
That's my best part, I think. Or at least that's the one I spent the most time on. That's a socket that is on my scope, and where I have my power pole power input, and that Ethernet cable goes directly to my mounts. That's the only two cables that are going up to my telescope.
That's amazing. That's great.
That's
This
wild.
is the bottom of it, so you can see it's standard material and everything clips in, you know. So I could remove this Ethernet cable if I needed to.
Mhm.
I could change the power pole though. Yeah, no, I wouldn't even need soldering. That's a power pole.
Nice.
I would need the
Beautiful.
only place soldering is here is the switch itself.
Okay.
Right.
That's
Beautiful.
thanks. That's a thumb wrench right here in the middle. I had difficulties. You know, I come from behind, and it's quite an awkward position to untighten things.
Okay.
And last time, I think I broke my finger.
You broke your finger.
I think. But it is painful since like 3 weeks, so I had to design this part, emergency design. It's very convenient. Even with a broken finger, it works perfectly. No pain whatsoever.
Right. But Tanya, we have the so that's the machined T handle version that we had for a long time, and now we're shipping ones that are actually round and are knurled, right?
Right. Yes.
So
Yeah, I've seen that on the Losmandy store, by the way. I was still happy to pull out the design and have my wrench. Anyways.
sorry, go back for a second. So, but you also showed, so in here, that's where your that's also the picture of your Ethernet and power jack that's right there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
On the right. Okay. And above here is my meteorological sensors.
Got it. Okay.
Such a clean setup.
Yeah, very clean.
I like to keep it neat. That is my imaging computer. It's a Nuke. Well, I like to keep it neat, but you can see that I've not been working on dust here because it's filled with, I think it's pollen. It's not dust, but same more.
Hey, Carl, I just would like to tell you, Sneaker Set says nice mods.
Thanks.
Yeah, everybody's been quiet. I think they're like really tuning into this. So
they're busy downloading the print files.
They are.
There are only 3 parts currently online, but just let me know whatever interests you, and I will put them online.
Great.
Yeah, nice.
Boom. That's the Nuke case, the custom case. So I fitted a few 1/4-inch threaded holes. So those are 3D printed screws, but it's just to attach the cables. But I could put screws. Those are my security screws. Okay. And this is a hub that can slide out. It's not very visible, but it's a sort of a Vixen attachment style thing.
Okay.
So just to sort of back up for a second. So you, on your 150, it looks like you have the Losmandy D style dovetail on the bottom. Yes. And then you've added that on the top, and then that's where you're mounting all your various accessories and the Tack thing that we'll talk about here in just a second.
Yes. As you know, 150 lens is very front heavy. So I had to push things on the back. And I got the, is it 24-inch Losmandy dovetail plates?
I would think that would be a 24.
We do have a 24.
Yeah, that's that's the one. That's the 60 centimeters one. And that allowed me to pull things on the back. Plus, I got a counterweight also.
So that's kind of a nice, and although we don't really talk about it, it's kind of a nice added value for using a top plate that you use the dovetail on.
Oh, yeah.
You can actually use it as a counterbalance to move things up and down.
Yeah,
that allowed me to gain maybe 3 degrees on my limits, because I can have my scope going further now. And I just passed the meridian like this. So that's my last part for my Alnitac flip flat, and normally you have those rubbers and the flip flat itself. When you have a very big instrument, it's difficult to center it. So if you have a, let's say, 120 scope, it's not an issue because it's bigger. But if you have
by the way, I have exactly that.
And on my 150, the margin is much fitter. So I printed this 3D parts, which I adapted horizontally, so that it would be perfectly centered.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Nice. I have a question for Mr. Carl. Toby,
yes.
How durable are those parts? Enough to knock them in the dark?
Knock them wouldn't be an issue. Those parts are printed in PLA, so PLA will not last like 10 years. You know, if you leave them in the sun for too long. By the way, I will show you another part that I left in the sun, protected with a white bag. It melted.
Oh,
it melted.
Yeah. Yes, it melted. PLA is sensitive. It will not withstand temperatures over 60 degrees Celsius, something like this. 50, 60 is going to become critical.
But 60 Celsius is pretty hot.
It's pretty high, but on a very...
That's 140 degrees, right?
I will trust you on that one.
I just typed it into Google. Trust Google.
I do trust Google, but yeah, you can reach it on a summer day in plain sun. You can reach it.
Yeah.
And 60 degrees C is the total failure, and it will start to lose strength at 50 degrees or so.
Right.
Though if those parts were printed in ABS, that would be durable. That could stay in the sun, and that could withstand temperatures much higher.
All right, that's
Got
good
it.
to know. Good to know.
Though I've printed those parts since about 2 years, and well, I've only melted one at the moment, and as you can see, I have a lot of those around.
You do, you do, you
Right.
do.
So they're durable enough for me. By the way, the part that melted is this one.
Oh.
So that was my custom adapter for a non-mini camera for the new SVO OAG, the M68 version. As I own a non-mini camera, a 174, I was not willing to pay for a mini camera, a second one the same. So I designed this part to replace the SVO helical focuser, and I then had it machined. Unfortunately, I was lazy, and I took 3-4 weeks to install it, and I had the time to melt the previous part one day.
Oh, got it. So I'm just to clarify, because I have all the mini cameras. So with the ZWO or ZWO helical focuser that comes with their OAG, the idea is that you take this focuser and you sort of put the mini camera in here.
Yeah.
I think I don't have one available, but and with the non-mini cameras, you can't do that, right? It's a problem because the distance
Back
prevents
focus
you
issue.
from achieving
Yeah.
focus. So
Exactly.
you've printed and figured out a way to essentially take a non-mini camera and just kind of use the part of the helical focuser and just screw it right on there.
I suppressed the helical focuser and I replaced it with my part. And this will shorten the distance by, I don't remember, I think it's 15 millimeters or something.
Okay.
Right.
Maybe it's even a bit more than, maybe it's 25 millimeters that is gained. And with this gain, you can achieve back focus. And if you see the picture in the middle on the bottom, that's how you will adjust your focus, by screwing your camera in or out. And then you counter, you have two screws and you block them.
There.
Yeah, and each half of a turn is 0.37 millimeters.
Nice.
So in my sense, it's accurate enough for a good enough back focus on the guiding camera.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Another project I had with my mount was the mount pass-through system. And if you remember at the beginning of the presentation, I was showing you the mount and saying, have you seen how the cable is sticking out going to the north? So that's basically this small bracket that attaches to the polar scope cap.
Okay.
And that will keep the... So I have my pass-through system also behind this. You have to understand that the cables are coming through the array axis. And as they're sticking out there, they're held for maybe a further inch or 2 inches more. And this is sufficient to keep cables out of the motor's way and things that could snag.
Okay.
Right. So I know you're going to talk about this now, but you've actually figured out a way to do through the mount cabling on a Losmandy mountain. And that's what we're going to look at right now.
Exactly.
Okay.
So first version, by the way, I used the bubble level in my original Losmandy plate. I removed the bubble level and I managed to pass the cables through. There was only one that was complicated. It was the motor cable, because it's a DIN cable, and obviously you cannot get a DIN plug through this bubble slit.
Sure.
So I had to solder it on each side, and anyone who soldered DIN cable will understand my pain doing it. I mean, I'm bad at soldering, but those are really hard to solder.
Right.
So that's the bottom. That's where you would stick your polar scope.
Okay.
And that is the array axis. I will skip to the next picture, next two videos. It will be much clearer. I will just cut the sound if I'm not sure if you. I'm not sure if you have my sound guide.
I don't
hear
think anything.
Oh,
but
perfect.
let me. I just want to kind of orient people. So
yeah,
you figured out a way to take your G11
yes,
and do through the mount cabling.
Yes.
And originally, your first design, this is not the first design, but the
No,
first
this
design, you removed the bubble level and kind of
Exactly.
used that hole to jam stuff through.
Yeah.
In this version, which I've not seen all the details of, you've kind of, it looks like you've drilled your own hole in there.
Yes. Well, actually, Scott drilled it.
Yeah,
for
I
me.
think Scott did it. We sent it out to him. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
All right,
Scott drilled it for me, and in a very nice way. It's an oblong hole, and it is angled, so this helps to get the cables in.
Right. And so Jamie was just asking about drilling something, but so aside from the drilling of the plate, that one plate, is there anything else? I think you just ran everything right down through where the polar scope comes in, right?
Yeah. The only condition is that you do not use a polar scope, because you will prevent the use of a polar scope by doing so.
Right, because the cables are coming out where the polar scope would be attached.
Okay.
The second thing, though, is and you have a picture of it here, is this is designed for mounts that don't have the RA extension kit, right? This is kind of a one-piece extension.
Exactly. Yes,
So
it will not work.
Yeah, so this is on the new mounts that have the tucked motors. This RA, there is an RA extension piece, but it's a one-piece RA extension piece. And I think this is only going to be able to be done if you have that RA extension piece. That's a standard part.
As long as it is one part and it's extended, it will work. If it is the separable part, it will unfortunately not work.
Okay, got it.
Or there is something to figure out. But as I do not own it myself, I haven't had the occasion looking into it.
But so I want to just sort of emphasize what Tanya was saying is that when we talk about the RA extension, there's kind of two pieces. There's two ways in which we're talking about, right? One is there's the extension. There's an actual physical extension where there's a spacer in there,
and that's
then
what you
separately. That's what you have, right, Carl? And
yes, exactly. This one.
When we talk generically about the RA extension kit, a lot of people associate that with the version where you can attach part to the RA, part to the deck, and remove it, and becomes a separable axis.
Yes,
and that's not what we're talking about here, right?
Exactly. Correct.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I take also the occasion because we can see them here. Those are cable management system. Those are available for download. They just attach to each knob, and you can then pass your cable through.
Nice.
Helps to make them neat.
Yeah, it's a very tight rig, for sure.
I spent a few nights on those.
Yeah. It looks great, though. The outcome was awesome.
Thanks. So a few projects now with all this nice gear. The Pleiades project was a very important project for me. My mom was sick, I said a bit earlier. She caught ALS, which is a terrible disease. And I learned a French rapper that I was listening to when I was a teenager, and even nowadays, he caught ALS. So I contacted him through Facebook and just wanted to transmit my feelings and support and everything. And it was very accessible. You know, even though he's very famous, it was very easy to get in contact with him.
Nice.
Later, I saw this music clip. So this guy with ALS is intubated. The only muscles that he's able to use is the muscles from his eyes. So he's locked into his body. And the video clip that you can see is one that he produced only with his eyes and with produced the music, obviously. And those clouds really touched me. You know, it reflects his condition. And I wanted to share something else with him associated with dreaming. And I thought about stars. So I told him, look, I saw your music clip and I'm an astrophotographer. I love doing this. Would you like me to take a picture for you? And I will then print it and offer it to you. And he chose the Seven Sisters, so the Pleiades. I was really happy he chose this target because that's one that caught my attention. Every time I was out, you know, after the right hour, you just, what is this? And then you know, but it's something really obvious in the sky.
Right.
So that's the picture, but I will switch to the website because I built the website with it.
Right, and we're going to put the link into the website now.
It's already preloaded. Yes, thanks. So ALS is Lou Gehrig disease. I will let people hopefully follow the link and take the time to read if they're interested in this. This is Pone. His name is Guillaume. And behind him is the picture that I printed 120 by 80 centimeters and sent to France.
Carl, can you? I'm sorry. Can you just go back to your the picture of the M45 that you did?
Sure. I will come back to it later, also, though.
Okay. I just wanted to I mean, it's a beautiful rendition.
It really is.
It's tricky to get that going. So, sorry. Go ahead. Please go back to the Pone's website.
Yes. And, even with the disease and all the problems, health problems he has, he built up this website, ALS for Dummies, in French and in English. So I strongly encourage anyone that knows anybody that has ALS or that knows people who know someone who himself has the disease to go and read this, because it is a mine of information. There is absolutely everything about the disease. Well, everything that is social will be more European, but it's mainly medical, and it speaks about everything, and it's very hard to get all this information. So that is a very important website. So I encourage people to share it. Share this one, share the picture, share ALS. Take the time to read. And here is, but I will show this one in detail later. But this is a viewer I'm using, which I can display names, like the names of the stars.
Oh, I love this. I think this is really neat.
And we can zoom into the picture.
Now this particular image, this is not a lot of integration time, right? I mean, this is a pretty reasonable amount.
Yes, that is 9 hours. 9 hours with 2 hours 30 for luminance. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh,
yes. I lost when I coughed, I didn't want to.
Okay. I got scared. I got disconnected. I was, oh no.
Okay, very good. So that's a really astonishing thing, and I love that picture of him with the picture behind him. Yeah,
it's great.
He's a really, really cool guy.
Yeah, there you go.
So the second project I wanted to talk to you about is M31. And M31 was my nemesis. I started with this. I started with it with a tripod. I was never satisfied, and I just kept going at it. So this version took me 1 year and 8 months. That was 1.5 year imaging on 87 nights. I started in 2020 and ended in 2022. I spent an extra 2 months processing. I've been using my standard gear. I will just add that I had also some HA filters for this. It is a 4-panel 2x2 mosaic. It has roughly 3,000 broadband exposures and 400 narrowband exposures. So that's a total of 132 hours.
Wow. And narrowband is just the hydrogen alpha, right? You're not doing
exactly
O3 or anything.
No, just hydrogen alpha.
Got it.
So same thing. I will switch to the website, and same thing. I've already loaded it there. So that's one of the points with the mosaic. So I'm just going to click on this button here to get the thing out of the way. How do you display such an image? I mean, it's nearly 1 gigapixel. It's 770 megabytes. So in order to do this, I'm using a plugin, and this allows to load the image tile by tile, and only download what you need. We can see on the bottom it's still loading. I'm on Wi-Fi, so it's a bit slower.
So this is, and I did want you to talk about this project because, as we have discussed before, a lot of people, when they sort of get bitten by the astronomy bug, it's because they image Orion, Nebula, or Andromeda, and it's just the first thing that they shot that doesn't look like a bunch of stars in the sky. And
Yeah.
you obviously shot, that's kind of, you were talking about, that's kind of one of the first things that you've done, but you decided
Yes.
to go back and really just produce an astonishingly detailed mosaic that's taken you a year and a half,
Yes.
over a year and a half to actually put together. And this is the fruits of that labor, because it's very unusual that people kind of go back and revisit and say, I'm really just going to nail this one.
Well, I would say that I never left. So I didn't go back. I just never left. I
Okay.
just kept going. I honestly have so many frames from Andromeda. It was an obsession. I almost thought I had to go and see someone, and talk about it. I couldn't get away. I just couldn't. And I'm glad I did.
Right. So this has got, so can you just, there's a couple things I know that you wanted to point out
Yeah.
that are visible in this
Yes.
because of the level of detail that you've been able
Exactly.
to capture in this mosaic using this gigantic sensor. And not only is it a
Yes.
full frame, but it's something like,
Four-
what, 60 megapixels?
It is, and it is 4 times as
Yeah.
it is a mosaic. And then I drizzled it, obviously, because I could.
Obviously.
Why not? So I'm in the top left corner here, and it's quite packed place. You can see galaxies about everywhere. But at this zoom level, honestly, I've been going through this image for a few months now. I will activate annotations up here. All the green annotations are galaxies. They're not stars, they're
Amazing.
galaxies. And just put it on, and this will help you find them. And I will defy you. Please find me any place where there is no galaxies. I haven't found a single place.
I mean,
It
this
is-
is like Webb telescope stuff here, I'm feeling.
Yes. This is just so cool.
And I find it interesting because it's done with amateur gear. I mean, good amateur gear, but it's done from Earth.
Right.
Look at this, so great. Wow.
And I think there's another nice one here. You can see as I move that the thing is loading
Right. Yeah.
dynamically. Your mileage may vary. It depends on your connection also. Here's a nice galaxy, I think.
M31 became a career. That's funny.
I might reprocess it, get a bit more saturation in the colors, but it's about
It's
the only
beautiful,
thing I want
yeah.
to do to it.
Yeah, it's pretty.
I'm
That's
confident
beautiful.
I will stop imaging it now. I'm confident. I'm not sure, but I think.
You probably said that to yourself before, though, right?
It's pretty amazing,
No,
Carl.
no, honestly, no. I said it to myself in March this year. I said, yeah, okay, I think this time I have everything. But before, no, I was never satisfied. I was looking at
I
the
know.
stars.
I
I
love
was
this.
like,
I love Sneaker Set's comment, right? M31 became a career. That's funny.
Oh, hi, Tom Cloverdale. Coverdale. Sorry, I always say Cloverdale. He says it's beautiful.
Thanks. So challenges. I had challenges all the way. I think I like to get everything right. So then the more obsessive you are, the more issues you will find. Planning was one issue because you have to know how many approved frames you have for each panel and each filter, and you have to coordinate everything. The scale and the sheer size of all the thing. I mean, that is nearly 400 gigabytes of
Sure.
raw frames, and I'm only speaking approved frames.
Mm-hmm.
With the intermediate files, it went up, and the project files. I think the project is nearly 1 terabyte. I had to split it in several projects, and I needed nearly 8 terabytes to process this. The mosaic was really hard to master. Alignment is one issue. You need to get this really perfect alignment in PixInsight. You have to use catalog star generator to generate artificial star fields. And this will give you an undistorted view of what you want to align with. And then you use a distortion map. And if you put those two together, you will be able to align your frame in a much, much, much better way that will even cope with things like back focus issues. But it will take you a long time to do because the default parameters will not work, and you will need to blink for your images, see which one are not working, and then go back and adjust the parameters until they work.
Right, but I
yeah.
Carl, your point was, and this is kind of one of the takeaways, is when you're doing mosaics, especially high resolution mosaics, the distortion correction is absolutely key, especially on these large sensor
Oh, yes.
Images.
Yes, it is. It is. You cannot bypass them.
Okay.
And it's very long to do, but well, you gain much more than just a mosaic. You get much better stars overall.
Sure.
Part of the planning thing is also getting a proper background that is uniform across the tiles. I've been working with photometric mosaic from John Murphy, which is an absolutely wonderful tool. Very fast, so you can iterate a lot and try and do. But I mean, the better quality in, the better quality out.
Right. This is the photometric mosaic script that's inside of PixInsight.
Exactly. I strongly advise it. It's I think it's the best out there. I've been using also to cite them because they've been important parts of this process. I've been using NSG, the paid version, so I could do drizzle NSG.
Sure.
And for the luminance, that's why I want to go back maybe to processing. For luminance, I've been using GHS for the stretch. So that's a generalized hyperbolic stretch, and that is a wonderful tool. I can only advise people to use it.
Sure.
So mosaic was also difficult for the seamless joining, but that's part of mosaics. Last point was, how do you view fit file that is nearly 9 gigabytes? I mean, or the PNG file that is 770 megabytes. That's not very convenient.
It's huge. It's huge.
So that's why this website, why I designed this website and used this plugin to display the dynamic mosaics.
Right, the one we were looking at there, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I wanted to do a quick, I will pass it quite fast. I will only show you the picture. I wanted to speak about M31V1. I've been watching an astro imaging channel about this lately, and I thought it was very interesting. So I had to go back to my image and say, oh, can I see it? And indeed, I can see it. So this star here is a Cepheid, and a Cepheid is pulsating variable star. And its particularity is that it's period, because it will kind of get brighter and brighter and brighter and then fall, and brighter, brighter and fall, and this periodically. If you can grasp, if you can calculate its period and calculate its magnitude, you will be allowed to calculate the absolute magnitude, thus estimating the distance to Andromeda.
Sure.
I would be able to do this if I restacked my entire project, doing 1 stack per day or 1 stack per hour. Not sure I will go through this though.
Right, but that's fascinating that we can see that, right? That's
Yes.
really interesting.
Yes.
And that's actually a zoomed in part of your M31 picture. Yeah. So people can zoom around and find it. And presumably, is that part of the annotation?
No, it is not part of the annotation, but I will probably look into it if I can add it. I can always add it with Photoshop or something.
Right, but can you give us sort of a rough sense about where it is in there?
Yeah, I will just zoom out, so because it seems easy, but it's pretty hard to find.
It is,
so
yeah.
It is here, and I will now zoom in here.
Got it, okay.
So for anyone who's shot this before, I mean, obviously you can look at your own version of Andromeda and see if you can find it there.
And there are those 4 stars here. It makes like almost a V shape or a mu shape, yes. Would be a Greek letter. Mm-hmm. And it's the one here.
Very cool.
Wow.
Okay.
So, Tack, our project.
Yes. So let's now.
Let's kind of
so this is the thing that I wanted to make sure that people tuned in for regarding remote imaging, because this, you and I have had a chance to use this. It's got a long and sordid past in terms of bringing it to the point where it is now. But you and I talked about this probably over a year and a half ago, right?
Yes. Yes.
And what I was describing, and you were kind of, I think you were describing it as well, but we were kind of, I guess, discussing this issue that when doing remote imaging, and I mean, like, you know, you can't walk out to it with your driveway or something. It's somewhere where you have to potentially drive to get your telescope. So if anything happens, it's not an insignificant amount of effort to do something about it, right? And
Yes.
one of the things that sometimes happen is a telescope can lose sense of where it's at. And kind of your response to that was hold my beer, and
Challenge
and then
accepted.
here we are now, right? Talking about exactly that.
So one event that can occur is a power loss.
Right.
So if your mount shuts off, the power shuts off for even 1 minute, and your mount is remote, or like me, your mount is 20 feet away, but you're really lazy, so you do not want to go there. I thought there was a possibility to do a device that could handle this.
So the idea of the device is if your mount somehow loses position and you can't get it back, how do you solve that problem?
So it's a small Arduino device. So Arduino is a small chip, hardware chip, and on it is an accelerometer and a gyroscope. And those sensors have some defects, let's say, but if placed in the proper position, it is possible to recover the exact position of the telescope.
Okay. And can you just hold that up to the light a little bit more? I mean,
Yes.
So this is part one of what's called Tack, TAC.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
this is a piece of hardware that inside of it has a multi-axis accelerometer.
Yes.
This is something obviously you've designed and built, and you attach this to basically the top plate of your telescope, or on top of your telescope.
Yes. I think I have a picture there.
Okay, hang on, let's see
Okay.
here. Yeah, perfect. Okay.
So, and the arrow is pointing where the telescope is pointing.
Right. So in this particular iteration, it's got some built-in things to attach it to a Losmandy dovetail, and it has a
Yes.
specific orientation, right? You sort of attach it in exactly this way.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. So the arrow faces where the scope is looking.
Got it.
So the idea is that then with the proper software, this device will move the mount, will do some specific moves. I think I would need to write something up about this to explain a bit better how it works in the principle, but it will defeat mathematical singularities and things like this and put the mount in proper positions to do measures and get your mount back to CWD, regardless
down
of the,
position.
yes. And regardless of the mount status, like the mount could fix on a limit or whatever, the software will go around this and it will get your mount back to CWD and it will reboot it. So then after a minute or two, you can reuse your mount and it's restarted in the proper position.
Okay.
It's bringing like a functionality from an encoder, the ohming functionality from an encoder.
Right.
Okay.
So the software that you talked about needing, I mean, this software exists. You wrote this software.
Yes.
Right. So this
Yes.
is a combination of a sensor and a piece of software.
Exactly.
Now, what I want to show is we did this demo, right?
Yes.
So this
Should
is,
I stop sharing my screen?
It doesn't matter because we're on my screen now. So,
Yeah,
but
we
you
see-
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, we see.
But,
and this
okay,
is
so-
in your backyard, right, Brian?
Right. So this
Okay.
is a bit ago before I have my pseudo observatory with the temporary carport and the piers and everything. But we did a demonstration and we recorded it. So you and I went through this, right, Carl?
Yes,
And
correct.
what I'm going to show is so if you guys can follow my mouse here. So here's the telescope we're interested in. It has the Tack device attached to it. This is the software that's running right here, right? So of course it's running, and it's running on a little computer on the telescope. So we're kind of remoted into that. This is a camera. This is a remote camera that's just showing the telescope. And then the Gemini, I don't know why it's not the screen. I guess when we recorded it didn't quite record this correctly. But let me just sort of start playing this.
Wait, just before, pause it
Oh,
for a
sorry.
second.
Okay.
I just want to emphasize one thing on the Tack software. In the middle, you have in green 2 parts. You have the mount position, but you have the inertial measurement unit. So that is the
Right.
reported, on the left is the reported position by the device.
Right.
So it currently sees that your array axis is 90 degrees from horizontal.
Right.
And then it sees that your altitude is 39 degrees. And that is real-time measure. Then
Right. So this software is actually live right now. I mean, I
Exactly.
haven't played the video, but it's live when we were watching this.
Right.
and on
I'm
the
gonna go
right,
ahead and-
you have the ASCOM version of it, which is whatever the scope thinks it is in. So you will
Right,
see that
so-
when you will move it, it will be confused.
Okay. So
because-
here's me. So now I'm going to loosen the clutches and I'm going to mess it up.
Okay.
And you can see here the everything is reporting now that things are bad. And I tried to pick up pretty.
Yeah.
I don't actually walk that fast, by the way. I was sped up. Let me pause it for a second. So I physically moved the clutches. So this thing is pointing differently than where the encoders think it is pointed. Right. I purposely
So
broke it.
ASCOM thinks you're in CWD.
Right. Which I'm clearly not. And here's the inertial measurement, which essentially is code for this is where it's actually pointing, is saying you're in trouble.
Yeah. And the left is saying, be careful, you're looking 40 degrees below horizon.
Right. So now we came back, and I'm going to kind of have to, I think I'm going to have to kind of scrub through this a little bit. But
Okay.
we come back, and then we hit the this control button, which we did. And I'm going to kind of just, I'm scrolling a little bit.
So we can see on the video that the scope is being moved, and this is just moving it in the proper position to do the proper measurements. And
So at this point,
the last
right,
step will be parking it. Yeah.
So
Go
the
ahead.
Tack is actually moving this. So we basically press the button saying find counterweight down position.
Yes.
And Tack is take control and it's moving the telescope. Part of it is it's trying to figure out its orientation, right? And the part of
Exactly.
it is at some point it's going to go, okay, I know exactly where I am. I'm going to put this
Exactly.
back into counterweight down position.
Exactly.
So I'm going to kind of, let's see. So it kind of goes, it does a few
Yeah.
things to figure out what's happening.
Yeah. And it
And
should
then,
park in a few seconds, I
Right.
guess.
And then I'm going to sort of
There.
move it back here.
Okay.
And
So now it's moving it to the counterweight by a down position.
right.
And as
Now,
soon as
there was-
it's in position, it will reboot.
So there was a step when I installed this device. There was a
Yes.
step that we kind of skipped over. It's not a critical step, but when you set it in, there's actually you press a button to calibrate it, right?
Yes.
So you install it, you boot it up a counterweight down position, you launch the software, you say calibrate, it moves the scope around a little bit, and then it says got it, and it's good
Exactly.
to go. And then you can
Yeah.
just kind of leave it there, leave it running.
It's an optional step. It just makes it more precise.
Okay, and here we are, right? It found
And it's
itself.
back,
Totally
and the
did
mouse
it.
is rebooting.
Counterweight.
Wow.
So
So-
for the guy that is remotely controlling a scope in Chile, or a guy like me, very lazy, that doesn't want to walk 20 feet, it's a very good thing.
Right. So that's astonishingly lazy. You're so lazy that you would rather write a piece of software and
Oh, it took me so many months, but I could do it from my chair.
I know, but you know what? I will have to say, don't forget, he lives in Switzerland, so it gets a little cold out there.
yeah.
No,
Now-
it's not so cold.
Oh,
So-
really?
No, it's
When I
fine.
was there, it was cold.
I mean,
So
in
Carl-
winter it goes to 32 Fahrenheit, I would say. Not much below that.
Okay, Carl. When we first talked about this, your initial response was, I could do this in about a week. This shouldn't be too
Yeah.
hard.
Oh yeah, I thought it was 3 to 4 days worth of work.
Right. And how long did it actually take you?
I didn't count exactly the Mondays, but I think it's over 60 Mondays, something like this. So it's
Over the
at
course of
least
about a year
15
and a half.
times more than what I expected.
Yeah. And it was, and can you just speak a little bit about the challenges that you found? Because sort of the basic idea was easy, but actually getting it to work in all circumstances was really difficult, right?
Yeah. Well, one thing is that trigonometry has singularities. So there are, when you approach certain position, the measure will degrade in quality, and the closer you get, the worse the measure gets. And when you combine 3D transformation with angles, and like when you do multiple of those, and they lose precision, each of them, it will do a huge error. And you will not be able to measure an accurate angle. You can have an angle that will be reported at 10 degrees and then will jump to 90 degrees and then jump to 180 and then jump back to 10.
Right. And although
That's how big they go.
So this is not a direct correlation to that, but when we think about something like calibrating your guider and pointing at the North Pole, right? You get to a point where the movements are so different than pointing at the celestial equator, they can generate tremendous error. And that's part of the reason we don't want to be pointing at the poles, because it's just the angles get closer and closer and closer. And the movement changes so much that even just a little bit of movement can produce a drastic angle change.
Okay. That's the exact same reason, is because you have singularities when you get close to the pole. And so I've actually managed to mess my operating system once. I did a solve that failed at the pole, and I had to reinstall the entire operating system. It messed my model so bad that I had to reinstall.
Wow. But the point is, I mean, this is sort of just behind the scenes, but I remember you disappearing for months at a time and coming back and saying, I think I've solved the problem. And then you're like, oh, wait a minute, I didn't.
Yeah.
So it's hard.
Good measures. And it seemed to work. And then I would let it half an hour and restart it, and it would fail. Yeah. And this was another part of the sensor. It's called drifting. And you can start the device if you have a gyroscope, and then it will slowly drift. And you have to find ways to cope with this.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Somebody already needs one.
Oh,
when you see an alpaca picture, beware.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Now, so this is where are you in terms of the development of this? So this is obviously a preview. I know that the device that you showed, which is the same as the device I have here, it's kind of a prototype. But can you give us a sense about kind of where you are with all this?
Well, we'd say it's a proof of concept. Like, we wanted to make the thing working, and it does work. And it is usable. It is 3D printable. It is not a mass production. The chips are not ROMs and what they should be. It's an Arduino that is programmed, but it's functional. It is
functional, and there was no trickery in terms of the demonstration that we just showed, right? I mean, that was literally like we went out there and I said, I'm going to try to break this thing, and sure enough, it worked.
Okay. Here's a question from Morecat. Hi, Morecat. Does it have to be installed near the center of rotation?
No, it's not necessary. It only needs to be planar to the saddle plate and looking in the same direction than the scope.
Okay.
Right. So essentially what we showed there, right, which is sort of this, it needs to be installed sort of along this axis somewhere.
Yeah. But it could be, if you have the place to put underneath it, it could be underneath.
Okay. So it could be down here somewhere, maybe.
Exactly. It's just a matter of being parallel to the saddle plate.
Right. I gotcha. Very good. Okay. So it's in preview. We're just, if people are interested, leave a comment, let us know what you think. And I think we wanted just to show this to people and sort of gauge the reaction, right?
Right. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
and I mean, I have to tell you, it just worked. I mean, it was sort of, we talk about a lot of the behind the scenes and all these things, but it kind of is magical in the sense that the scope was pointing in some bizarre place. Not only did it find counterweight down position, but then it rebooted the Gemini. So, of course, in the Gemini cold boots, it says, okay, where am I starting up from? And when you say cold start, you're ready to go, right? It's as though the mount is completely reset.
it sounds like this is a great alternative to absolute encoders, but at a fraction of the price. Am I thinking right?
Does not do exactly the same job. It does part of it.
Okay.
But it will not. It will not improve your guiding or your tracking.
Okay.
But it will help you to cope with those power loss and mount loss.
Right. So okay.
So that is super cool. So you guys, if you're interested. Or you like what you're seeing, if you have more questions, just drop comments on there on this live stream. Well, of course, this will be available for replay, so we can, of course, go and check the comments later. Let us know what you think. Let us know if you're interested. Of course, it's also, there's no pricing set, but it's clearly going to be far less expensive than in any sort of encoder option.
Exactly.
So
Oh, yeah.
it's kind of, and it works with your existing Losmandy mount, right? There's no physical hardware modifications needed.
You only need a USB port.
Yeah.
And part of the testing of this system was randomized testing. So I would let my mount run for, I don't know, 10, 12 hours a day, and the mount
Right.
would slew in complete random position, and then I would launch the thing automated. And I would pull out those Excel files to see how accurate it was.
Okay.
Right.
A lot of testing. That was the longest.
Very cool. Very, very cool.
Very nice.
So, Carl, thank you again so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
That was fantastic. I
really
sort of,
was,
when we were talking about doing this podcast, and I was doing some of the thinking about the promo work, we almost talked about it as like a triple threat, right? You're like an accomplished imager, and you have a lot of input to give people. You have these incredible accessories that you've designed and built yourself, and then 3D printed, and then made available. And we've posted some of that comments, we've posted some of those links in the discussion in the comments. And then, we have this Tack, which is, again, for anyone doing remote imaging, or I guess maybe lazy imaging, and for whatever reason your telescope has lost home position, you can use the software and this little utility on the scope and actually have it find it and restart it, and you're good to go again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So fantastic, great job. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, this was great.
Thanks.
So, yeah.
So,
right,
Tanya, is there any, before we leave, because it's been almost about an hour and a half, which is kind of our typical live stream.
Right.
Is there any other comments or things that we need to address in the?
There was maybe a suggestion from Jamie, and then I think we've kind of put up everything. He says maybe with some software work, it could give detailed limits for RA and DEC.
There might be something like this in the software already.
Oh, snap!
Now, in order to cope with this,
Carl.
the mount will effectively block movement. So Tack will release the limits. It will recover the limits. It will store them. It will release them from the mount. Then it will use an internal system of limits, which can be configured internally in Tack. And Tack will allow to go certain degrees below horizon. Once the procedure is completed and the mount is rebooted, the limits are restored.
Very cool.
Very nice. Yeah.
I did, by the way, Tanya, I did see George asked a question earlier. I just think he wanted to ask about your 150. He said,
no reducer.
Use a reducer with that scope.
Nope. I've a Telescope Express 2.5 flattener, and it's a one-time flattener.
Okay.
Yeah, nice. It's always tempting to, having just gotten my f4 Newtonian up and running, which is about the same. Your focal length is what, about 950 or something like that?
1050.
1050. So this f4 Newtonian is about 1,000. It's 1,000. It's a Skywatcher 10-inch. Just the ability to gather light that fast is really, really seductive for sure. So I know that there's a real interest in reducers and things like that. But, then there's always the reach argument, right?
As you can see, my M31, I'm a pixel pipper, and any detail I can grasp, I will go as much as I can.
Right. Fair enough. Okay. So, Carl, thank you again. We loved having you
Thank
on
you.
and showing us all your good stuff. And I know we can see you on the user forums as well. We do see you there from time to time. Tanya, how did your ear hold up during the live stream?
It's doing good. I'm pretty sure it's probably going to be hitting me here soon. So I think I took enough
Tylenol?
reliever. Yeah, Tylenol to hold me over. So I did okay. I'm surprised.
You called earlier and you sounded terrible, but you sounded great during this. So thank you for hanging in with us.
Yeah, no, it was a great presentation. I really enjoyed it. Thanks so much, Carl.
Thank you again, Carl. We're going to sign off now. Thanks everybody for staying on with us. And we'll see you at the next podcast, which is probably going to be in about a month or so.
Excellent. Thanks so much.
Thanks,
everybody.
guys.
Thanks.
All right, bye.